I don't know about you, but I'm bored with the web. It's become depressingly predictable. The same homogenous mediocrity regurgitating the same old stuff time and again, the same messages, the same manipulation, the same cynical ploys to part us from our cash or personal information. And it's not just us either. It's not just digital professionals. You could understand people like us becoming jaded, but I think users are too. Consumers have become cynical and aware that we're throwing out the same old bullshit at them every day via websites. The web has become like this hall of mirrors, with each reflection becoming increasingly distorted and a weird kind of mesh of the same old stuff. We see something that worked for somebody else on their website and we attempt to replicate it ourselves. And as a result, we spend up most of our time looking at the competition rather than speaking to our own customers. No wonder we don't inspire. No wonder we fail to create a compelling experience. We need to be refreshingly different if we hope to stand out and inspire our audience to interact with us, to maybe even buy from us. So, how do we become refreshingly different? Well, that's not a question that's easy to answer. There's no simple answer to it because it's really hard to break away from the road well travelled. It takes bravery and a risk of failing. That said, I do think there's a real hunger online for refreshingly different companies, companies that somehow feel more genuine. So, with that in mind, I want to share with you a few of my ideas, but I'm actually more interested in your thoughts. I want to assemble a collection of ideas that inspire people. So if you've got any tips about avoiding mediocrity, then let me know. Drop me an email to paul@boagworld.com and I'll pull it all together and present it all back to you. Anyway, my first piece of advice is to stop looking at the competition. You're never going to be different if you're copying others. And you're never going to lead a sector if you follow your competition. But it doesn't even just stop at your competition. Stop trying to replicate the success of others. Just because something worked for Amazon or Apple doesn't mean it's going to work for you. You have to find your own way. And by the way, that also includes all those articles, ebooks, courses, and other advice that supposedly shows you the path to success. Sure, they might have worked once, but they'll become increasingly ineffective as more and more people adopt them. Look, I'm not suggesting that these things have no value, but you need to make them your own. You need to give them your own unique twist and tailor them for your audience and your niche. You need to use them as a starting point for innovation, not the be all and end all. Half the reason people blindly follow the advice of others is that they're too afraid to think for themselves and then potentially fail. You don't need to take responsibility if you follow someone else's plan. It's their fault, not yours, if it goes wrong. But failing isn't bad as long as you keep the cost of failure low. We need to learn to experiment, to try things and see what resonates. Enough with those big ideas, the kind of ideas that are too expensive to be allowed to fail. Instead, try little things, incrementally improving and learning as you go. Don't despise those small beginnings because big things can grow out of those little experiments. As you experiment, use data to show you what's working and what's not, but don't allow it to define and dictate success. Too often, new approaches are not given time to breathe or establish themselves because they don't show results fast enough according to the metrics. Worse still, many organisations find themselves paralysed, unable to do anything for fear of undermining the metrics that have already been established and not doing as well as last quarter. At most, metrics should be a guide. However, no single metric, no even small group of metrics is going to allow room for innovation or to represent the health of your business. They can't be anything more than a guide. However, the worst part of chasing metrics is that it turns our customer interactions into like an algorithm rather than a relationship. We stop having conversations with our customers in a kind of natural interaction, instead replacing them with carefully chosen words and value propositions. It becomes about eliciting the desired response, not meeting the needs of your audience. We stop behaving like human beings who are seeking to help one another or come up with a valuable proposition to both parties. Instead, it's about extracting value from an asset. Please don't misunderstand me. I use data and I also consider my value proposition and my tone of voice. However, that needs to be balanced with being genuine, human, and sincere. Having a sincere desire to actually help your customers and give them value from their interaction with your products and services. I always seek to value the people I'm interacting with in my life, and that includes the users that I build websites for. I try not to waste their time or manipulate them. Instead, I seek to interact with them sincerely and in an open and integral way. For me, that is what Refreshingly Different is all about. But I recognise this isn't an easy battle to win. Unfortunately, organisations don't embrace this kind of thinking readily. And we need to persevere and not get demoralised when they fall back on the same old patterns we see time and time again on the web. Take a leaf out of Winston Churchill's book, who famously said, "Success is going from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm." If we do that, maybe the products we promote can be refreshingly different.